All right, everyone. Welcome back to Outside the Lines. This week was episode 7, I believe. So now we have cut the 2 episodes in half. Jimmy Bell and I recorded a little bit too long, it ran. So we decided to just chop it up into two 1 hour segments instead of making us into a 2 hour episode. This portion of the conversation and episode went into a little bit more of who is manipulating the metals market, along with the other higher inflation costs and how that's affected and how that's passed along to the consumer, which is yourself, as well as we dive deep into the big boy in the hedge against inflation, which is the real estate market. So that's a big one. We have a ton of actionable tips in those as well. So let us know what you guys think. Again, thank you so much for the love on the pod. We've only been doing this for 6 weeks now. We've got tons of subscribers to the pod, tons of listens, tons of downloads. It's been awesome hearing the feedback I get on Twitter, Instagram, everything like that. So thanks again, guys. I appreciate that. So if you want Jamie and I to answer any questions you have, send them on over. We've been doing those every week. And once again, happy investing, and we'll talk to you guys shortly.
Talk about anything about the metals too? Do you want to know more about? I mean, I don't know.
The metals part, I really just want to understand. We'll get back to the metals part. We got a little off on a tangent on that one, but
it's all right. No, it's something you have to go over though.
But just the metals in general, of like, would you recommend the average person like myself, like would you recommend me going into buy the hard asset of it, or would you just recommend me buying it on the stock market there?
To the common person, I'd say look at some of these gold and silver miners, but even then I wouldn't even tell you to buy them because these things are manipulated so badly, and it takes a big stomach and kind of some understanding for this. I have been invested in Newmont mining for a long time as well. Not probably a little over a year and a half before COVID. I was buying Newmont because we had a bit of a bond blow up in September of 2019, and the Fed had to come in and buy back a lot of its own debt because there was a blow up. And
okay, yeah. So what does that mean for like a lot of like regular people out there? Like, what does a bond blow up kind of do to them?
Nothing, because the Fed does a really good job to make sure that it does. So that's why they had to kind of start buying back and monetizing their own debt, which no one really knows. It's just financial engineering. That's just, the Fed is just supposed to issue debt, right, raise capital, and then just make sure that everything kind of functions orderly. But then they just started doing things way out of the scope of what they normally do. And then, so
what they were like supposed to do.
Exactly. So then gold miners were really cheap in 2019 because it was kind of, everything was perfect, hunky dory. And then they started running really hot, like after COVID, because they realized, and then they started to kind of tailor off here. You could look at a chart. It's called Newmont. It's NEM, Nancy Everett Mary, Newmont Mining. So it's had if you look at the 3-year, man, it's had a nice little run. I own this. I like it. It's still really cheap. I would suggest that would be your best way to do it. I own this, and I was like, okay. I mean, I'm okay buying the physical here too. So yeah, I like the gold miners here. I think they're really cheap. I think that they make a product that is going to be very much needed in electronics. And I think gold is still a decent store of value. I mean, look, it's on the periodic table, right? It's backed by science. There's some old school families and institutions that still view it as a store of value. I do, not to the extent that some of these crazy kind of people think so. I don't think we're going to be exchanging gold coins and shit like that. I think Bitcoin is going to be better for transaction purposes. I like gold and silver. I like silver more than gold.
Let me jump in here. How liquid would you compare the two of like you said, buying the gold company on the stock market versus your bars of physical metals here? Like, how liquid is that market of physical metals?
It's same day. I mean, but there's premiums, you know what I mean? There's spreads. So if you buy a gold bar today and try to sell it next week, you're going to lose money because there's about like a 4% premium you're going to pay above asking price. These things are really long-term holdings.
Okay.
Throw it in a
Yeah.
safe, just chill. It's a nice little Armageddon hedge. You know what I mean? When shit really hits the fan, the best thing about gold and silver, Emmett, is you can't just go to a gold and silver dealer and hand them a credit card or a debit card. They only take cash. So you
Oh,
got
I
to
did
go
not
to
know that. Wow.
oh, no, yeah. This is all so people say that Bitcoin is decentralized. No, it's like remember there was that like Twitter hack where like they posted like a fake address for Elon and Bill Gates and Obama and a bunch of
Yeah.
people sent them and they found the people that did that. So Bitcoin is the network is kind of decentralized, but the government can go in and see what the fuck people are doing at the end of the day here. It's not that
Exactly.
hard. But I know forensic accountants in downtown Los Angeles that specialize and they can phone people like hack your wallet. They could trace and find it. Like it's actually not that difficult. Like there's companies that know how to do this.
See, they make
Trace
it
where
sound like people who are like the full blown believers make it sound like it's
no, it's not totally.
completely like for the people, kind of like you said, decentralized and
It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they
yeah.
can trace it. Gold and silver physical is actually like I have to pull out cash from the bank and they look at me and they're like, are you like, yeah, like it's my money. Give me my fucking money. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Of course they're always gonna be like, sir, do you really wanna, you know what I mean? I'm just like, please just give me my goddamn fucking money. That's what I, you know, and like it's just and then you take the cash to the dealer and nothing is said. I get a nice little invoice that I keep for my records, but that's as off the grid as it gets. And there's no sales tax with it either.
Don't know that
There's
either.
no
Yeah.
sale.
So
There's
yeah.
no sales
Wow.
tax. So this is this is actually off the grid. It's I'm not I don't have to hook up my computer to buy it. You know what I mean?
See, that also sounds like it's a
So that's
very
why
like
it's
Wild
super
West
boomer.
market still.
It's boomer as
Yeah.
fuck. Oh, it's not a Wild West market because the CME has a liquid futures market on it. And there's like an actual legitimate, you know, spot price that trades Monday to
Yeah, but in
Friday and
terms
certain
of
options.
like you have to go to the bank and like pull out wads of
Exact. Oh
cash
yeah, it's
and
boomer
like
as fuck. Yeah,
yeah,
it's boomer as
it's
fuck.
old school, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's boomer as shit. And so like the downside is if you want to like be a big time silver stacker, like you're gonna have to buy a really big safe, you know, because this stuff actually it's real, so it takes up space and it's
Yeah,
heavy.
that's like
It's
the
pretty
tough
fucking
part.
heavy too, so you have to actually transport it. And if Armageddon did happen and I wanted to flee the country, then it'd be kind of hard to transport that too. Versus Bitcoin, you could just put it on a USB drive, right? So there's pros and cons, right? And it goes back to it. I mean, when you if you're at a fork in the road and it's physical or crypto, I say take both. Crypto really isn't my thing, but there's like some weird gold and silver bugs that won't touch equities, and I'm just like, dude, you guys are fucking weird because I'll do both. You know, like paper assets, I like the real stuff. You know, that's kind of
Everyone's got their thing, man. It's super different.
exactly. So that's I like physical because it's just that it's physical metals. So and I'm a big believer in silver. And so fuck, I didn't talk about the WallStreetBets silver squeeze enough.
Yeah, go more in depth on
Okay,
that one. That's kind
they
of like
tried to so
I'm
they
not as
tried yeah, so they tried to squeeze silver when it was right here at this price and they got fucking stomped. They got crushed because the day that they tried to squeeze silver was like 2 weeks after they were able to do GameStop and the banks got super pissed and just wiped them out. So silver has actually been crushed lately because silver isn't games. Do you follow Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that guy?
yeah.
Have you? Yeah, have you? So you've seen him. I mean, he's talked about this stuff a little bit. Have you? Do you
It's
watch his? I personally don't follow him that much, but I get sent videos. He actually explains this very well. Robert Kiyosaki's the perfect example, and he literally I took this from him. He said, when you come to a fork in the road, take both or take all three. He likes gold, silver, and Bitcoin. He likes all of them. He
yeah,
says
he's huge
he
on it.
but he actually but his thing is like I save gold and silver and I kind of invest in like real estate and Bitcoin, but my core savings is physical bars.
Yeah,
He's really
he's the
old
one,
school.
like
You know
he's
what I
very
mean?
old school. Like he gets a
Exactly.
bad rap. A lot of people kind of tie him because he's another big real estate guy.
He's a
Like
huge, exactly. He's a big real
him and
estate
Trump are
guy.
the ones who are like the hardcore real estate guys where
Hmm.
like they, like I said, Robert Kiyosaki, and the last I watched an interview of his from, it's got to be like 10, 11 years ago now. He was with, it was him and Donald Trump, and they were talking about this. Like they basically predicted a lot of what's going to happen with like the inflation market and like how to hedge against it, things like that. And they talked about some sort of crypto being introduced. And so, I mean, the guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So but he explained the silver squeeze thing really well, and he understands that it's manipulated, and he said, the retail investors weren't able to manipulate silver because they're actually going up against the big boys, which is the commercial banks. See, with GameStop, they were just trying to blow out fucking Melvin Capital and these horseshit hedge
That's
funds. These
Yeah,
guys, I
they're
mean, come
like
on,
they're not, they're still the
Melvin,
big boys and they're still a suit,
these guys are
but they're
fucking.
not like
This
they're
isn't this
not the
isn't
enforcers.
Goldman. Yeah, this isn't Goldman, JP Morgan. That's really the difference. It's like,
Yeah,
and that's what Kiyosaki was saying. He's like, there's a difference between Melvin Capital and Goldman Sachs, right? And he said, Goldman's not going to lose. It's like what happened with Archegos recently. Like Goldman liquidated 2 days, and now Nomura and Credit Suisse are holding the bag. Like Goldman doesn't lose. They refuse to lose money. They don't care.
they
They just,
can't lose
yeah,
is where it comes down to as well.
they refuse to. So that's kind of who you're going up to bat against here if you're getting involved in gold and silver. That's why I don't tell too many people to. I just say, hey, keep it simple, you know
That's
invest in, gaming, cannabis, all these other stocks that I like. Gold and silver, this is kind of like I'm going up to bat against
yeah,
some things that
it's
I don't.
more of like a, not, you don't want to say like a higher end play, but it's more of like a, like you said, you have to be willing to stomach it. That's
Oh,
where what it comes down to,
definitely. Yeah, there's some fucking complete nonsense that goes on in this market because
and you have to
it's a
be okay with
crazy.
it too.
Exactly. It's just like whatever. But I do like the concept of saving gold and silver rather than US dollars. I think that makes a lot of sense in my mind. I just, it's like, oh, would you rather save US dollars or stack silver bars? It's just like, fuck, like if I have enough cash to be able to pay for what I need to on a daily basis, man, I would love to stack silver bars because I know Apple and Tesla are going to need a lot of these motherfuckers in the next 30 to 40 years. And when I'm an old man, it'd be pretty sick to have a stack of these motherfuckers. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So again,
When shit
the other
kind of
thing I
fucking
wanted to
hits the fan.
kind of touch on with this kind of market is like you've been seeing a lot of companies that are just straight up buying a ton of Bitcoin at the moment. Like, why don't those companies just straight up buy gold or other
Yeah,
metals that you
and
were talking about?
Tesla outlined that in that
Yeah,
little update. Not only did they said that they want to, they obviously threw Bitcoin on their balance sheet, but they also opened it up to be able to buy gold and silver. They can't because it's a cartel. Nobody will ever put silver and gold on their balance sheet because that fucking fucks it up for everyone else. Because if
how
Tesla put
so?
silver, yeah, if Tesla put silver on their balance sheet, silver would be up like fucking 30% in a day. And Apple's gonna be like, dude, can you fucking stop with
Like,
that
can you
shit?
not do
Like,
that?
can you not do that? Because the thing with Bitcoin is no one needs it to actually build products. You don't need Bitcoin to make a
I
phone. Like you need silver to actually make a phone, to make a computer, to make a monitor. So they can't do this, dude. Everyone wants the price to be low. That it's like you have the largest companies in the world cannot have silver higher. For, they can afford it going up 5% a year. They can't afford silver going to $40 a troy ounce. You're going to piss a lot of people off if that happens. And that's why the silver squeeze from Reddit didn't work, because GameStop blowing up, that pisses off a couple hedge funds, whatever,
Yeah, no one really
Silver,
cares that
silver,
much.
yeah, silver's getting squeezed. Oh my God, people are gonna be you're gonna have the banks are gonna be getting a lot of calls saying, dude, this can't fucking happen. Like this
Yeah,
sincerely, it can't happen. Gold, they'll get a little pissed off, but not as much. It's just gonna be a bunch of dentists kind of getting pissed off, pretty
yeah.
much.
That's a
And
kind of another thing of like when you look at it, it sounds. I mean, it's people are. I guess when you
it
kind of
sounds
go down
intimidating, you know what I
that
mean? It's like,
political
and I
market, like that's when it gets a little bit like it sounds like it's crony capitalism and
it
like the
is, yeah.
banks are kind of manipulating things, and that's just. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is at this point. Like you sign
Yeah,
up for the game and you know what you're
they've
playing.
been they've been manipulating silver for a very long time. That doesn't mean that silver can't grind higher because there's still a lot of demand for it, right? And there's a lot of demand coming down. I think the price of the metal can grind higher. They just won't allow it to go up 30% a year because they can't because if silver is one of your largest input costs, you just cannot have that happen. Like imagine Emmett if you ran a business and silver was your input costs, was like one of the main input costs. It's just like you can't have 40. Imagine one of your input costs going up 40% 1 year. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
that's big trouble, you know? So
well, I think again,
no,
it's going to be even worse when it comes now that Tesla's a part of the S&P 500. I mean, everyone already knows how top heavy the S&P 500 is compared like
oh my God,
with
yeah.
those companies. Now it's even more of a monopoly when it comes to the price on silver because look, if you can't let the biggest 5 companies that are propping up the S&P 500 fail, you just can't do it.
Oh
It'll
yeah, you know,
wipe out the American people.
exactly. They cannot have these metals. And there's other metals, platinum, palladium too, that I'm super
Yeah.
interested in. And like all these things. Like, have you heard about how a lot of Teslas and EVs are getting catalytic converters fucking taken out from underneath the cars? Have you hearing about that?
No, what's been happening with
Oh my
this?
God, dude. It's
What?
happened to like, yeah, people are getting their converters stolen from the bottom of their electric vehicles because there's fucking platinum and palladium in them and shit. It's worth a lot of money, dude. And people are stripping out
It's
silver and
not funny.
shit
I'm
too.
laughing, but like
No,
it's
it's
just
hilarious. It's pretty
like
fucking funny. No, because like, dude, these rare earth materials and these metals, man, these things are fucking very valuable, dude. That's just how I love. I like, dude, we're gonna need so much of this shit in the future with electronics and with data centers because there's the notion like, oh, everything's gonna be digital, but like to create like a digital infrastructure, you actually need shit
ex-
behind it. Like you need towers,
exactly,
you need
dude.
data centers, you need servers. Like, dude, all these chip manufacturers, you know how much rare earth materials and metals they have to use? Like, it's fucking insane, man.
That's
And
like when
like,
people don't understand like the whole concept behind everyone like I regardless of what you want to say about climate change and like all that other stuff, but when they try to make the claim of the electric vehicle save the environment and all this
oh
stuff is
no
like
shot,
the amount
dude.
of heavy machinery it takes to mine these kind of products and to get like the steps it takes for it to get into your Prius. It's insane.
Oh, dude, I mean, and all of the rare earth materials that are being mined are being done by kids, like child labor in Africa,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
palladium and platinum and shit that's going into all these Teslas. So I mean, dude, like it's the irony is just pretty obvious.
Yeah, point. It's so what's the kind of do you know the exact I'm putting on the spot here, but like do you know the exact pricing that these things are worth if you rip them out of a Tesla, things like that? Because the Tesla itself, if you get like a simple Model 3, it's a fairly cheap car. Like it's only going to run you around 20 to 30 grand for a car,
Oh no, I don't
which in
know how
now
much. I don't
nowadays
know
is
how
not
much
that
they're
bad.
ripping. I don't know how much these things are going for when they rip it out, but it's a big problem here in LA.
Oh
People are
yeah, like
getting their
these a lot
shit
of
ripped
these
out.
chop shops are now figuring out that like, hey, these Tesla batteries are very
Oh yeah.
expensive.
And there's materials and metals within these things that fuck if
Yeah.
you just isolate them, I mean, dude, this is worth a lot of money. And I mean, there are stories of like earlier last decade of like people jumping like people trespassing onto like oil fields and like stripping copper from it, you know, from like or even like fences because like dude, this shit's worth a lot, man.
People still
Like
do that a lot, man.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know how much you hear about it because, like, well, if you're in the real estate space at all, if you're doing any kind of flip, like, we have to have a lot of, even like, it's tough because I mean, down here in like the Orange County area, we work a lot in like Long Beach and stuff too. So if we're doing flips in there, we have to have the house like fenced, and then of course we have cameras in the area because like when we have copper piping and then the electrical and like the wiring, like people are hopping job sites to just rip that stuff out,
Yeah, it's worth
like
a
and just
lot,
flip
dude.
it.
These the metals again, these things like that's what people don't understand. It's like there are these metals actually have electrical conductivity, right, qualities to them that cannot be replicated by anything that could be created in a lab, right? You
Yeah,
can't you
that's
can't you can't recreate silver in a lab, right? It's on the period. That's why gold, it's AU, right, on the table. Gold, that's what it's called. The periodic table, right?
yeah, I believe so.
Gold, it's AU or so, yeah, AU.
Yeah.
It's you can't recreate it. Any of these things, they are what they are. Um, and that's why I personally, and you can say like, oh, Kevin, the periodic table, like you're a super boomer. It's just like, dude, like I'm gonna go back to this shit all day. I love science personally. Like this shit
It's
makes a
just
lot of sense to me.
fundamentals, man. Like it
Exactly.
just
Like it's
makes
real,
sense.
it's
Like,
real stuff. Now, what the futures market shows and like how the price goes up and down, like that could be discussed. And if you're putting on a trade, should you be long or short gold here? And it's just like I really don't care about that shit. It's just like, dude, this stuff, I find value in it. I think jewelry too. I mean, we can talk about gold with jewelry. I mean, you can't recreate anything else that goes into jewelry, right?
well, like I guess like kind of like you said, like these things are just like the
They are what
market
they
on it.
are.
It's is what it is. Like people wouldn't be going to these lengths to steal them if they weren't worth something. Like the
Man, look at how much people will spend on a Rolex watch that's made with super high quality gold. That's some nice silver in there. And I mean, that shit's not going away, man.
Yeah, I
Gold
mean, I'm not a huge
necklaces,
watch
jewelry.
guy, but like I can understand why they are stores of value. Like people buy
Exactly.
them at like the 5, 6, 7, $12,000 price point, and you wait 5 years, the thing's worth $20,000, $30,000.
Exactly. So you could even get your gold exposure through that too.
Yeah,
I mean, some people buy really nice watches and Rolexes, and maybe it makes more sense than buying a pure gold bar. Just buying some nice jewelry because you'd actually wear it and shit. And it looks super
I
nice.
think
Like
yeah,
it's like
personally, I think that's like the route that I would end up taking. I don't like you like you said, you're a fundamentalist and you really like having the bars. But like someone like myself, I don't understand the market as well. I don't know how to go about it that way. I might just pick up a Rolex one day and be like, okay, I'll just store this away and
yeah,
wait for it to
you're
appreciate.
yeah, you're able to wear it too, enjoy it. It looks super nice. It's a collectible at the end of the day. Rolex is a really strong brand. And
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
as long as you take care of it, just like anything else, it's going to be worth something. And it has, really, and you're only able to make a really nice watch that's not going to scratch and dent and fucking break because you need these metals like gold and silver to make them.
Exactly. You have to use
So
the high end
that's
products
yeah,
and
that's what I like about it. I'm not like super weird, like, you shouldn't be doing anything else. You should just be all the money you make should just be going into gold sort of thing. Like I'm not gonna go there, but I think it's really cheap here from like a chart perspective. I think gold is sitting really nice here at support, like around 1700. So I like it here. I like it here a lot. Gold and silver, man. I like the metals, and I like copper too. Some of the copper miners are kind of interesting. All these
yeah,
metals,
this
man. I mean, to the rise of electric vehicles,
so that's kind of like that's
solar
like the biggest
panels,
thing that we'll
man.
kind of hit on. And like that's like because of the rise in like the EV market and like all these types of companies, like precious metals is a good place
It
to
is,
store your
dude.
money, man.
It is. I like it a lot more than just sitting on cash. I
Yeah,
like it a
that's
lot
also
more than
fair.
just sitting on cash. But yeah, anything else, dude? I like what we
I
talked
mean,
about here.
do you have time for something like one last
Yeah.
kind of send off question here? Like we talked about, I mean, hedge against inflation obviously was like the bigger topic of today with precious metals. I know something that I brought to your attention was the one of the questions we got the last time was talking about the foreclosure markets and like what
Oh
happened
my
with the
God.
foreclosures
Real
in
estate. We didn't
08.
even talk about real estate,
Yeah. So this is kind of like
which
the
is what
one
we
that kind
should.
of wanted to,
Isn't it crazy? We've had 3 episodes in real estate. It's like the last thing we talk about.
we
And like
always
it's the
get to
business
it.
that you're in.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, what do you think
exactly.
about real estate here, man? We could talk about do you want to talk about residential or like income producing?
I think we'll touch on pretty much. We'll start with residential, and then we'll touch on a little bit of
Dude, let's talk about residential because
the resi
holy
the
shit, dude.
like the. Let me
Residential
read this
real
kind
estate.
of the number out. The one that kind of shocked you a little bit was that there's 12 million foreclosures that caused that '08 crash, and then so the forecasted that we have 10 million that are set to take place after the rent and mortgage moratorium ends or whenever that's lifted. So like, I mean, what do you think happens with the market when it gets to that point? Or do you think the market, like, you think the US government just keeps propping it up and
I
trying to get
don't
out
know
of
what
having
they're
that
doing
crash?
about this mortgage thing. The government's been buying back mortgage-backed securities for the last like 13 months. So essentially extinguishing the counterparty risk from the banks and just
Yeah.
taking it all on. So like they're just essentially not allowing the banks to fail because they're just going to take on all the risk. I mean, dude, I don't. The residential real estate market is just so strong right now, because at post 0809 when the whole thing fucking fell apart, um there was like little to no investment in new housing starts or like housing developments whatsoever. All the money went into income producing office space and apartments post 0809. Right. I think you could agree with me there. Like nobody wanted to ever touch residential housing after 0809. For like literally 10 years, the home builders were pretty dormant. Like maybe
They're
they
s-
made
like
maybe they
still that
made
way.
it's because
It's
that's
no
kind
one
it's
wants to get burned again, man. Like we work with a lot of builders, like the big ones, like KB Homes. Like we work with a
yep.
lot of these big guys, and no one wants to get burned like they did in 08.
There's
Like so,
still a
people
lot of
are like,
space out there in the
yeah,
country to build, and there just really isn't a lot of capital flowing into residential. Now it's starting to come. It's a little bit late, but there was really no supply of housing for the amount of demand that was caused by COVID. People realized, like, do I really want to be living in an apartment in downtown LA and people are shitting on the streets and shit, or do I want to move, to a nice like suburb and actually have a backyard? I think having it,
well, like
going to a suburb with a backyard sounds a lot better than having people shit on the street right
yeah,
in
like
front of
walking
your
around San
fucking window.
Fran, you might trip over some needles, like with the
Yeah,
homeless
and
population
your
there. Like,
apartment's like $3,300 a month. Like,
yeah,
dude, it's
for
just
a
like I'll go,
400 square foot place.
yeah, I'll go buy a house, and
Yeah,
take on a mortgage. Um,
but that's the thing. Like I was talking with my realtor. I'm looking at a place out in Austin, and I talked with him, and I pointed out a few places that I'd like to kind of take a look at, and I showed him a few houses, and he was like, "You have to like put in an offer with me like now.
oh yeah,
Like
like
I'll
yesterday,
get
dude. Like,
like
yeah,
I favored something on the like Zillow or Realtor.com, and the thing's gone. It's under contract within 2 days. So
it's
you have
so
to move
hot, dude.
quick if you want anything.
Oh, the residential housing is there isn't enough housing to go around for demand right now. It's the easiest high school econ supply and demand story. There's really isn't
I
anything.
mean,
For 10 years nobody wanted to buy new homes because people were too scared. They're too busy putting up office space. Like what the like they come like what the
exactly,
fuck were you
man.
doing? Like I mean why, and then so now the office space is in trouble, apartments are in trouble because no one's paying their freaking rent because the government in California it's like so hard to get evicted from your apartment. Like, I think you would know
It's
this.
genuinely like almost
It's almost
impossible. Like
exact. So
that in New York, it's genuinely like impossible.
that's
Like you
why
can
that's
pay
why
like no one
I'm
knows this, but like in New York, if you can just not pay your rent for probably 6 months, then it takes another 3 months on top of that for them to file a formal request to have you removed. And then on top of that, it's another 3 months to go to a hearing. You can pay your rent like in full the next day, they still can't kick you out. So you can go a
crazy.
year without paying rent at all.
Crazy, dude. And that's what scares me about owning income producing property. It's just like, oh, because I have trouble trusting people to pay rent. It's just like, god damn, dude. Like if you have good tenants, man, it's great, but it's like people could easily just fuck you over, you
Yeah,
know.
there's only five, like we talked about before. There's like 5 states that I would buy real estate in, and when it comes to residential,
Interesting.
because there's only, I mean, if you look at it, it's the one that you like the most as well, Nevada being one of them. So
Yep.
it's Nevada, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, and Florida are the ones that
Mm-hmm.
are just they don't really. I don't want to say they don't care about the tenant, but they're very landlord friendly. To where the fact that like if you're not paying your rent, then they're allowed to kick you out of your asset.
Exactly. And that actually makes sense. It's crazy. It makes sense, like, oh my God, it's just here in California. I've heard the stories, dude.
It's
It's tough.
crazy to
Well,
me.
because like, oh my God, I just wish, I mean, I don't know. I wish there was a way to get people renting for more affordable prices too, because I think that's like the double-edged sword is like, why are a lot of people behind on rent? Because it's fucking like too expensive, man. for a lot of these people, especially here in SoCal. Like, god damn, dude. I mean,
Which
there
is
has to
also
be a
kind of
way.
tough though too. Like, do you want a strong housing market, like, or do you want
Yeah,
to just live in like have everyone be in low income housing? Like, that's a tough. It's a tough pill to
yeah,
swallow. Like, it has a bad stigma to it, having like low income or like to the extent of government sanctioned housing. Like, no one wants to be in Section 8 housing. You want to be able to fend for
exactly.
yourself, and
Yep.
but at the same time, you don't want your house to be houses to be so unattainable to the average person that they
Yeah.
only can
There's
afford
just
paying rent like
there's
their
just
whole
like not
life.
enough space here in SoCal because in Colorado they do something. I know I have a friend that utilizes I don't really wouldn't even it's not like even like government assisted, it's just more affordable. And it's like these are like nice places in like the Boulder area, you know.
Yeah, man.
And like it's not like and it's very affordable and it's not crazy and god man, I don't that's what kind of scares me about real estate like office space and apartments. It's just
I think the
um
thing I don't like about real estate is that it's so. I mean, I love the asset class. I mean, I can probably name about 4 or 5 that I would just die on. Where I would have no money in equities and just pour all my money in real estate. That's how
uh-huh.
much I love them at some points. But then to the extent, it's like I think it's a very cultural led asset class. Like, you have to want to have home ownership, and millennials haven't had the need for home ownership and like the want until COVID started.
Yep, that was kind of what pricked. That's because before residential real estate was kind of rolling over a little bit before COVID. It was kind of like, oh shit, like
Yeah, man. Like,
it
when
was.
New York like is booming and it's open, like no one wants to live outside this. No one wants to live in Queens or in like
Yep,
Brooklyn. No one wants to live
y-
out there when you can live in Manhattan.
yep, it's
That's where
crazy.
things are, man.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting, man. Yeah, I like the residential home market is really interesting, but it is you feel like it'd be a bit late to stay. Oh my god, it's going crazy. I mean, what do you
Well, with
think
money
about
with
like
money so cheap, like when you can borrow at a 0% interest rate, like now it's up to like I think 1% or whatever they had it at. But like when money's so cheap, you can afford. That's why the housing market's so propped up as well
oh
right
my
now.
god, the
Like,
housing market is
money,
just
like I said again, money is so cheap that
how do
you can
people
buy
have all
whatever
this
you want.
cash for down payments? Like that's
That's
like
the
serious. Like,
problem. They
dude,
don't.
how
Then they're all
do
gonna
they
go
really
under,
not?
which is so sad, dude. No
You
one
really
knows this,
think?
but there's government assistance programs. Like Wells Fargo is the biggest one as well. Like, they'll they'll give you, so like FHA loans or like first time home buyers, you can get
Yeah,
in
and
at
there's like the
three and a half
mortgage
percent.
insurance, right? But then
And
you
then
have to pay
yeah,
them
you have to have mortgage insurance on a lot of that stuff.
if
But
you don't
then
do come
like
up with 20% down, right?
yeah,
Or something like that. Or and then when you reach kind of that equity, they take the insurance off. So they're able to kind of get people in with 5% down payments, and it's just costs a shitload to service it. And everything's good right now because the government's doing
but then like
stimulus and things
the
like
biggest
that. And
problem is that it's not even the fact that you can get in the home at 3.5% down. It's like it's now your asset. You're like you said, like you don't have that built-in equity. You're only in at 3.5. Some people come in it with zero money down because of the
oh
assistance
my god.
programs with the government that they do.
Uh-huh.
You can, a lot of them with, like I said, with Wells Fargo, they'll give you 10 grand to put towards down payment and closing costs. So you can be in a home at zero, like with no money into it. But then once that house loses more of its, like the majority of its value, you're underwater on the house and the bank owns it.
I know, yeah. So the home value goes down, but as long as you could and then you're just paying fucking way too much for what the home is actually
Yeah.
worth.
So then like, I get in a house that's like, that you bought at 380 grand now is only worth 200, and your mortgage is still jacked up at like 2,300 to 2,400 dollars. You can't afford that now. Well, I mean, you're locked in at a 30-year fixed. You're kind of just sitting here with, again, you're the one that's holding the bag in that situation.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, so like real estate prices in Florida just got to levels seen in like 2007. Like they just got back there. So what if you bought a piece of real estate in Florida in 2007, you just got even over like 14 years. So it's been a big turn. Like it's been
Yeah. So
so
I mean, the
uh,
asset is in general super interesting. Like if you're coming in it from as an investor standpoint, like you're only in it for the cash flow, or at least you should be. There's a lot of them who are appreciation hungry that invest in like LA and those kind of areas that are only in it for the appreciation, which is they get like after they sell or whatnot. But I mean,
Uh-huh.
if you're like a smaller guy, like ourselves, like our parents, if they're looking to buy rental stuff like that, you should be in it for the cash flow you're getting every month for it, unless after that it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think is like the most actionable thing right now? Would you be a buyer of an apartment or like units? Are you comfortable with people consistently
Um,
paying rent at this juncture?
I think like we talked about before, I think it depends on where you're buying at. Like if I'd be comfortable buying at in areas where rent isn't to where the levels, like I would never buy in California. Like I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
buy anything that has to do with like apartment investing or like that involves me having a tenant here, because like the laws don't favor me in that sense. Like this guy
Yeah, it's
can
just
he cannot pay his rent for months and then just decide to pick up one day and leave me holding, I can't pay the mortgage on it. And next thing you know, the forecloses and the bank owns it, and it goes to
yeah.
auction at that point. But I mean, for like, I think for anyone who has money sitting on the sidelines, I don't think it's a bad place to put your money if you can find a place out of state, or you can if you can find a syndication and do your research and find someone who knows what they're doing and where they're investing at. It's a good place to put your money at. You're getting going to get cash flow every month paid out.
So you like out of state. That's where you see the value and kind of up and coming cities, things
100%.
like that.
I think
Or
the reason I was looking in Austin specifically is because of the amount of jobs that are heading there, especially with Tesla moving there. Um,
uh,
Another one I like is a lot of big tech is heading to Nashville. That's becoming like the hub of the South. People are starting to get out of Atlanta and move in that Nashville area. Like I mean, the Titans are there. Um, they have a big hockey team there, country
mhm,
music hub. But a lot of these places are right outside the city, and the homes are still affordable, and the rent is still affordable. You can still pay $1,500 a month and get it into a 2 bedroom house or a 2 bedroom apartment with amenities. And it's just you have to look at where it's affordable. But back
mhm,
to the Austin market, there's I mean they have Apple campuses right there. Apple campus is 20 minutes from downtown.
mhm.
I mean when you look at the market when it comes to, it's a big hub in terms of being able to fly out of there. It's accessible throughout the country. Yeah, that's where I see the market going, right outside that area.
When are you gonna move there? Sounds like you want to get the hell out of here.
Not essentially moving, just if it's a safe place to put your money. Essentially, if you're an
That
investor,
makes
that's just
sense.
where I see
Yeah.
it.
No, that makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's really appealing, man. Like no state income tax. There's
Oh my
just
god, right?
like
Just
you said, if you don't have things holding you to your job, especially with people who are from like the New York area or people who like like us in like the LA counties kind of the world, like there's no point to being here if you can work remote from somewhere and have a place that you where a lot of millennials, and it depends, like you said, like it's a laid back kind of city. So if you're looking for the LA vibe, Austin's the place to be.
man, I've heard that. I've never been to Austin personally. I've been to Texas multiple times. It's a great place, man.
It's a fun place, man. Like you said, it's a college town as well too. So you get a lot of diverse people and ideas and a lot of diverse like talent that comes out of there. That's why I really like it for the job market. Indeed is based out of there. Google has a campus there. Like it's huge, man. It's starting to look like LA was like 20, 25, 30 years ago. And it's
Exactly.
really on the up and coming, man. I think the numbers that I forgot to mention, but the numbers, so like the US appreciation in homes, typically they do about like I think it's about like 4.5% a year. A home
Mhm.
appreciates every year in the States. Um, there's two cities right now that are like completely booming and that are outliers in that sense. So there's Denver and then Austin, Texas. They do so the national average of appreciation is 4%, 4.5 a year. They're doing 4.5% a month in appreciation.
Things are it's just fucking mooning.
It's
It's
going
just ripping.
out of control, man. Like you said, it's the housing market there, like it's ripping. There's places that I looked at in when I was there in 2019. I was there, I've been there every year since. So when I was there in 2019, I kept an eye on the same house. It was worth about 300. Now that same home is selling for $800,000.
Home
So
didn't change,
home didn't
but
change. It's
but
same update, but just people who are flooding the market that have, like, I don't want to say like California money, but have Silicon Valley money, and they are okay with spending that much on a home that might not be like worth that much.
exactly. The home
But the
didn't
market
change,
is,
but the circumstances changed, right?
yes,
You had
exactly.
kind of a shift in consumer habits, people wanting to get more space because of COVID. And at the same time, you have too much money printing and pretty much the same amount of housing,
Yeah, so the
units.
biggest,
It's
another big one is like, I have the best example is like 20 minutes, 15 minutes outside the city there. You can look at the average home price back in 2018 was probably around like 275,
mhm.
280. A friend of mine bought out there, and so he still has his fixed mortgage is at like $1,200 a month, and he's almost like, it's insane to me at that point. But if you look at the same number now, the same house, he sold it to a couple from San Francisco who work at the Apple campus, and it's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house. It's a young family. They're fine with spending almost $3,000 a month on that house, which
Because
he's
the
cash flowing almost two
exactly
grand
the
because
circumstances changed, and he was in enough early where he could capitalize on that opportunity. Because
it's,
it's like the best thing about owning real estate is you're essentially taking a bet on the surrounding area, and that's kind of what you're figuring out and piecing together from a fundamental point of view. Is that the circumstances in the city can change with obviously all these companies coming, and that's just the most exciting thing about owning a home or real estate is that you can kind of participate in the growth of a city and surrounding
that
area. That's
too.
really
Yeah,
cool.
you get to be within your local market, and then not to mention like the, if people, I guess people look at it differently of what you people want to buy. He bought a primary residence first, and then it's just the ability to borrow against that asset too. Like
Yeah,
the home's
banks love.
skyrocketed in value.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, he can go to a bank now and ask for almost 700-800 grand, and they'll be like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I mean that's how much your home's worth. I'll give you 80% of that.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Banks love lending on real estate.
And he can just go ahead and throw that into new projects or just whatever, like he said, whatever he wants to, if he can get better in the market. Just depends, man.
That's awesome, man. No, that makes a lot of sense.
So
But
I guess for actionable tips, I guess that was like a long-winded way of saying, like, if you can afford, money is super cheap right now. If you can afford a place, go do it. If you can partner up with someone, do it. There's plenty of people who are looking for homes in those rising cities and that are willing to pay more than what you think.
definitely, because they got to live there, because that's probably where their job's taking them. It's like
Yeah,
you really
exactly.
have
Their
no
jobs are
choice.
moving there. Like, people, they need a place to stay when they're out there. They're not just going to rent in the heart of downtown
Hell no.
when they can rent a nicer home that's 10 minutes from work.
That makes
It's
sense.
in a safe area. Like, the schools are nice. Their kids can
Yep,
go to school there. Like, it just,
that
I mean,
makes
all
sense,
signs
man.
are pointing to it. It makes the most sense, man.
And
I
look at
know
us.
it
We're
takes,
just sitting here in California still.
yeah. So we're the ones who are sitting on our hands in California here.
Like a bunch
But
of
like you said,
chumps.
there's tons of, like I said, I can give you some more. I'll send you some more material of stuff off the when we're done recording here. But like, there's places and projects that if you're looking to move, we can not essentially move, but if you're looking to get in on, there's things I can send you. Don't worry about
Please, dude. Yeah.
that.
Super interested, man. And remember I told you I kind of looking at myself, man. I'm a bit over my skis in my equity allocation, and I that's kind of what drove me to buy some physical gold and silver. Is just I kind of said, hey, let me piece something off here, and get exposed to something else, because that's really kind of the first time I've ever strayed away from the equity market. I've been a stock guy for the last 5 years. It's worked out for me, thank fucking God. Jesus Christ. It wasn't really a year ago, it wasn't really looking that way. I was looking like a fucking idiot, but but just like
I said
anything,
the same
man.
thing a year ago when I looked at my portfolio and I was like, oh, dude, I'm getting slaughtered. Maybe
And
this
but you
equity
could have
thing
you
is
could have
not for
owned yeah,
me.
you could have owned anything and it was getting absolutely slaughtered then,
Yeah, to the same
so
thing. Like the real estate market was getting obliterated too. It was getting throttled during when
yeah.
COVID first happened. People were like, oh, it's the next 08, it's the next 08, and it's just turned out to be the complete opposite. It just jump
Crazy, right?
started like a new wave of new home ownership.
Yeah, people, because
Crazy.
you could still sell a home and people didn't even care. Like back in the people were still buying homes like in the summer. They weren't even going in for personal tours. They're just buying it like fuck it,
Well, that's the issue
crazy.
now. Like again, I forgot to mention, like you can't even if you look at Austin. Like that's the kind of the other point I was trying to make. I've been there every year since 2019, and if you look at it, there's construction going on everywhere, and they
Crazy.
don't have enough contractors to build enough homes. So what happens is that these homes that are looking like dumps, it's cheaper to buy a dumpy little home than it is to buy a plot of land.
Let me give you a stock that I actually have owned for a while too. I bought it last year. I wish it was a bigger position. The ticker is GRBK, Green Brick Partners.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I like it, it's a home builder based out of Dallas. And the reason why I like it is because
I'd be a buyer here at 24.
it's so they make they're a home builder in 3 regions and 3 regions only. Texas, God, what's the city in Colorado right around the Air Force? God, what the hell
Colorado
is that?
Springs.
Yep, Colorado Springs and Naples, Florida. That's it. It's a really small company. I mean, what is it worth? I don't remember how I found this thing.
Dallas that's a huge market
So
too.
it's a
Like
1 billion. It's a $1 billion company. So it's a really small company still. You
small
know what I mean?
company.
Relative to Lennar and Pulte and shit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Comparatively,
yeah.
1 billion is
So
small.
exactly. So it was really interesting. I remember I have only owned this for like less than a year, but I've been holding on to this thing, and I was actually a buyer. I last bought shares on February 10th, that when it came back into $20.
Oh, so you bought a 20 then? Okay.
No, I first bought shares in May of 2020, so 11 months ago. My first buy was at 10,
Oh
10, 10,
jeez.
11, 11, 11, 11, and I let
Oh
it
wow, yeah,
run.
you were.
Yeah, and then I let it come back in the 20. And I rather than sell it again, I didn't sell it at 24 and be like, "Oh my God, I'm, doing so well, I should sell it," sort of thing. And I've talked about that how many times. It came in the 20 and I bought it again. Because that's what you're supposed to do when you
That's
like something rather than
exactly,
just fucking
dude.
sell it.
Because we can
Because
sit
look,
around and
like,
talk about like, well, if you have conviction with it and you like it, just buy it.
yeah,
Like that's all you
exactly.
can
Keep
really
yeah,
do. Like
keep slowly just putting your wealth towards it. Because what are you gonna sell it and then go to cash? Like, what the fuck are you gonna do with that?
exactly.
I could sell it, go to cash, find another idea, and fucking fuck up on that. Like, so I could go make a mistake. Like, God, if you have a good idea, let it run. Because you're gonna sell it and go make a mistake somewhere else.
Yeah, but these guys, like you said, they're in a nice market too. Like the
Look
Dallas
at
area,
their
like
yeah,
right
look at
outside
their
of Dallas. Like there was, I think it was another global kind, not global, but national stat. Like there was a ton of new home buyers in that Frisco area. It skyrocketed.
Yeah, look at the last investor presentation that they had. They do a really good job with their investor presentations on a quarterly basis, and I think that's what kind of led me to them. And I like the regions that they're in. I think with like companies like KB Home, too much exposure to California, but they've been doing
Way too
okay.
much.
That's why I
Way
was
too
like,
much.
And then Lennar and Pulte are big, but I was like, I want exposure to Texas and Florida.
Well,
And these
I
guys
think their
kind of really
biggest
lined
asset
up.
is that they're in Colorado Springs.
That's the crazy
Like the
one,
Air
dude. That
Force Base is not they're not
they're
going
all,
anywhere.
then that is kind of their pitch to investors, is just like, and that's the only city they're involved in Colorado too. They're not involved in the other ones. They're only in Colorado Springs. It's a smaller kind of it's a smaller portion of their business. They're mostly in Texas, and then Naples and Colorado Springs are kind of the sprinkles, but it's mostly a Texas-based
I think that's
business.
what I
So it's
like about the company. There's a ton of room for growth.
yeah, I like the home builders. I think I talked to you. The way I kind of got my real estate exposure in stocks is a company like this, and then super simple Lowe's. Man, I love Lowe's.
Yeah,
God,
exactly,
I
man.
love that
Like you
company,
said, like
man.
when things are being built, like when people are gonna be like stores are busy, man.
Oh man, Lowe's is a fucking zoo still right now. And then I also like Floor and Decor, man. Have you ever been visited a Floor and Decor
Yeah,
store?
man. Those
It's a
are
FND, dude. It's publicly traded. I own it. I like it a lot. Bought it last year.
I think they have a
Flooring, dude.
franchise model too. Like
Exactly.
it's
It's really interesting.
absurd, man.
It's not grossly overvalued, but they're kind of in a world of their own. I mean, Lowe's and Home Depot do flooring, but Floor and Decor is Floor and Decor. You're
Exactly.
going
Like
there
you
and you're
shop there because it's what it's known for, man.
exactly you're going for flooring, and they do a lot of more pro business, like actually like kind of contractors and not like
Yeah.
the big boys, but in the renovation market, there's like medium-sized business, smaller medium-sized businesses, guys that are kind of working for themselves, and Floor and Decor does a good job catering to them. So
Yeah, that's a big
yeah,
thing. Like I said, I deal with a lot of contractors in my day to day. Like we deal with a lot of home projects and things like that. So like hearing them talk about there's pro memberships at these kinds of places, that's
Lowe's and
just
Home
like
Depot, and
yeah.
man, these are really so that's kind of like there's like some super easy ways to invest, but then I still think at the end of the day, these are still paper assets. So I think it's still attractive, like for me to actually be involved in like physical real estate, even though I love Lowe's and
So yeah, I don't think
it's a great proxy for the housing market. Um, I still think it makes sense to own physical real estate too.
yeah, I don't think I'll ever convert you fully away from the equities or paper, kind of like you said, like paper assets of things. But I think I'll slowly sway you into the like, not even to mention like the tax benefits. Like you see it
Yeah, that's the
firsthand at
thing.
your job. Like it's just having these physical assets that allow you the tax like advantages of these things is just it's unheard of.
Well, owning real estate, how I understand it, is like the easiest way to retire early,
It's
honestly. Having, income producing real estate, that's how I've seen it. People do, it's like you could actually make a kind of a career out of this stuff
and that's the
versus,
entire thing. Like I've openly said how many times like that's gonna be my plot to have like that'll be my day job in the end.
freedom,
Like yeah,
actual freedom. Because you
like
can
my job's
own,
great, but this is going to be a thing that'll kind of launch it and propel into doing I enjoy looking at these kinds of markets, and I really enjoy going to see those kind of markets and making those kind of improvements. And it is a big people business too. So I don't it's you can make it a solo thing, but it's going to be a thing where you can get boots on the ground and really make it into your own little job.
yeah. I think it's really cool that you actually visit the places too. Man, you
I mean,
should.
that's the only kind of way like you can like really see what asset you're investing in. Like I would never have known about a lot of the stuff going on in Austin if I wasn't there, if I didn't have people like there telling me like, hey, like this is happening. I have people moving here because of X, Y, and Z. Like they're in
Hmm.
I work out with them at the gym and their family members doing this. Like you got to have boots on the ground somewhere.
100%.
And
No,
like,
that's really
you
cool,
have a
man.
friend as well who's
I have
in real
multiple
estate in
I
the
have I have multiple friends that are involved with real estate. Um if I didn't live in Southern California, I probably would be too. Like, but it's just like, okay, like let me go look. It's just like, okay, that was fun. I'll X out of that tab real quick.
yeah,
And then it's like,
exactly.
oh,
It's like it's tough, man.
I can afford to buy 10 shares of that, but that's kind and
Like
that's it's just like that's why the Southern California real estate market is just these guys are so smart, these fucking assholes. They just know how to price people out like me out. They're so smart. Literally. They're just
well,
like, let's make sure that like 20 something year old kids that are just kind of starting their career, maybe they have some money. Let's just price them out of every piece of real estate so we could just keep fucking hoarding it. These fucking assholes are good, dude. They
Well,
really are.
there's a specific builder here in Huntington, like his last name's MacArthur, and he's notorious. People hate him around here.
He just
Like
prices people
I'm
out.
26 and I know about this guy. Like I've been around the block a little bit. Like my grandfather used to do a lot of building down here, so
Uh-huh.
I know about what happened. And this guy was, well, I mean, you've seen the homes down on the numbered streets in Huntington Beach, and same
Uh-huh.
thing in Newport. Like he bought these places. It
Fuck.
used to be reasonably priced back in the day. Like you can get a nice home down there for 300-400 grand.
Uh-huh.
He went in one day and bought a ton of the lots, and he bought them all out at, and now he raised the rates. There was homes you could afford down there, like you said, 300,000-400,000. Now you can't even afford to get into them at around 2 mil.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah. And that's the thing about the real estate market. There's like little regulation when it comes to like cornering shit too. Versus like, the stock market, if you own a specific amount of a company, you got to report it, and you got to fucking do all this shit.
You don't have,
Like,
it's the whole
yeah.
thing is like,
Got to
I
worry
don't
about.
have to disclose that I own the entire block down there. It can all be hidden in an LLC. You can
Yeah, that's
find it.
crazy. There's like no reporting requirements and shit like that. Like it's crazy, man. That's what's super attractive too. But yeah, the Southern California, man, a lot of these families, you have a lot of old money and a lot of these families that just hoard all of this shit. And they're just, they literally, it's like they're seeing, there's like a few families in LA that just they fucking own all the goddamn real estate, like literally all like the shit that's like significant, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, that's the hardest part is like the LA, I mean not LA, but
oh
like
my
California real estate in general
oh,
is like it's a big
been
boys game.
passed,
It's the
yeah,
same thing
it's
as New
been
York,
passed
man.
down. Yeah, it's this stuff has kind of been passed down and it's gone through estates, and these people aren't
Yeah.
selling it anytime soon, nor like
No, man. It's
why
all because
would
it's like you
you?
said, they're all depreciating assets that they write off at the end of the year, and
Exactly.
they
And then you
rake in their cash flow.
what do you want to sell this? And then you have all the kids have cash, and what are they gonna do? Just spend it on dumb shit.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you'd rather
exactly.
have you real estate's like the best thing you can pass down through generations, right? Because it just sits and it just produces cash. And you don't want to have sometimes your kids and your grandkids and your grandkids kids to have a lot of cash, because what happens a lot of time when money gets passed down through generations in the form of cash and stocks. Stocks get liquidated and they get spent on fucking dumb vacations to fucking Tulum and Ibiza and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you see it on all the social networks. So you see,
Yeah,
like, I come
exactly.
like a buddy, like come like college. He's like, oh, I got some money now. Like, just go to Tulum and hang out with
Exactly.
Instagram
Rather than,
models.
oh,
Like,
I ran into, my grandfather passed down some real estate and I only get, fucking whatever, $2,000 a month. Sure, that's a lot of money, but it's consistent enough where your heirs aren't just completely blowing it. So that's kind of like from a strategic, like family building wealth sort of thing. That's what I've seen with real estate. It's really good at being passed down generation to generation.
yeah, exactly. So like the biggest things that a lot of these families will like, what they will, it's a well-known kind of concept in that world. It's called swap till you drop. So basically you build up these big assets, and then you keep a mortgage on it. You don't pay it off early. What's the point if you're going to die anyways? And then you just keep 1031 exchanging it, which allows you to move into a new and bigger building that's paying you more in cash flow for with paying none in taxes. So you just keep putting off the debt to the new generation, and they keep doing the same, and you never pay taxes on it as a family.
Crazy, dude.
And that's how people stay wealthy for a long time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, man. Let's figure something out. I do wanna.
Oh, of course.
I need to do
I'll
something,
drop you
dude.
some stuff offline here. But if this is not like a wealth behind the doors kind of show here. So like if people want to get involved and they want to like reach out, I keep forgetting this is like an actually like a podcast. Like usually
I know.
we're
I
just on
kind
here
of in the
shooting the
middle of
shit,
this, I kind of forget like we were fucking recording. To be completely honest.
and it's not even a thing at all. Like I'll edit it down, but still like I want this to be as open as possible. And like if the more people we can get involved and help kind of build their own wealth too, like will
Oh
be
yeah, dude.
will be enough for me, man. But yeah, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if you have anything else that you want to touch on, we can keep riffing off here. If not, then we can
I
just call
think
it here.
I think we're good. One, I was actually looking. I was silver. on the periodic table of elements is AG. That's what I was. So it's
So okay, so
AG.
silver was AG and then gold was AU.
Yeah, I always knew gold was
Okay.
AU. I always used to see that fucking yeah. So it's like on the right side in the yellow there. AG and
It
AU.
sounds like when you say it over again, it's like, oh, it takes me
You
back to
remember
like being
that
a
in
kid and
high
like,
school chem,
yeah.
right? High school chem used to be like, oh, like I always just remember AU was gold, AG silver. But yeah, so that's just that's a lot. That's where I'll leave there. Periodic
Perfect,
table,
man.
everyone, go learn it.
Yeah, A equals MC squared, whatever the A squared plus
Exactly.
B squared equals C squared. All these old timey
Yeah.
things. But awesome. Almost called you by your real name, but Jamie Bell,
Ah,
episode
I know.
6.
Oh yeah, I know. To all the people I fucking said my own name like 5 times in the last
If you're
episode, so I
wondering what
haven't
all the
had to.
bleeps were, we had we had
I
some
kept saying
mental
my own name like
lapses.
a psycho. But yeah, man. Hopefully one day I could get out from this secret identity here soon. We'll see,
We'll see. But
man.
again,
Yeah.
if anyone has anything else, if they have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I leave my socials in the links and everything like that. I'm active especially on Twitter. If you want to shoot me a tweet or any kind of DM on Instagram, anything like that. But again, give us a like, give us a rating. It really helps us out. It helps us get out to the people that want to hear this and then that need to kind of get on the boat of investing and kind of hear this.
Yeah, man. I like this episode because, a lot of people are super into some of these other alternative asset classes, and it's not my specialty, and it's always great to learn more. And shoot us more questions, please. And yeah, let's figure out what to talk about next time. I mean, I don't know. We'll figure it out offline, but
Yeah, I mean, again, it was a great recap. We talked about NFTs and like the crypto market
yep.
to precious metals, inflation, and real estate. So like we went all in, man. It was
We
an
kind of
awesome
covered
episode.
everything we had it covered before. So
Exactly. Yeah.
alrighty, my
Again,
man.
guys, let us know what else you guys want to see in the comments and kind of shoot us some DMs. But Jamie Bell, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Have a good rest of
Absolutely.
your Good
Thanks.
Friday.
Yeah, you too, my man. You have a good one and have a good weekend.
I appreciate it, man. All right, guys. In closing, take care.
Take care. See ya.